Alright, football fanatics, buckle up for a wild ride through two of the most jaw-dropping underdog stories in European Championship history. We're talking about Denmark in '92 and Greece in '04. Two teams that came out of nowhere to lift the trophy. It would be like your local pub team somehow snagging the World Cup. Picture this, Denmark was literally on holiday when the 1992 Euros kicked off. Yet somehow they ended up as champions. Mind-boggling, right? But hold your horses. We're not just dishing out the Danish miracle, we're serving up a double whammy of football fairy tales. Both Denmark in '92 and Greece in '04 shocked the world, as they both established their dominance while they should have been comfortably sitting on their couches. These tales of triumph will blow your socks off. Imagine your Sunday League squad suddenly winning the World Cup twice. These unlikely victories will make you question everything you thought you knew about the beautiful game. Let's kick things off with Denmark's incredible journey in 1992. Denmark, the team on holiday. So there they were, the Danish lads, feet up on the beach in the summer of '92. They'd missed out on qualifying for the Euros, so holidays were in full swing. Some were probably working on their tans, cold beers in hand. Then less than 2 weeks before the tournament, the phone rings. Yugoslavia's out due to a civil war, and uefa's on the line asking Denmark to step in. The Danes scrambled like mad. It was like being told to run a marathon after a month-long Netflix binge. When they rocked up in Sweden, expectations were really low. They were kitted out in the under-21 team's gear because their sponsors were caught with their pants down. The shirts were tighter than a Kardashian's dress, and their coach, Richard Muller-Nielsen, let's just say he wasn't exactly Mr. Popular back home. Folks thought his style was about as exciting as watching paint dry. But sometimes, when you have nothing to lose, a miracle can happen. First up, England. Everyone expected the Danes to get a proper thrashing, but there was a huge surprise. They held on for a straight 0-0 draw. It wasn't pretty, but hey, it was a start. Next, they faced the hosts, Sweden. This time they lost 1-0. Things were looking dicey. It was do or die against France, the reigning champs, in their final group game. And wouldn't you know it, Denmark pulled off a 2-1 stunner. Henrik Larsson, a bloke no one expected to even make the squad, bagged the opener. Then Lars Ulstrup, fresh off the bench, scored with his first touch. This says a lot about having an impactful sub. Then somehow Denmark squeaked into the semis, and suddenly the whole country was going bonkers. Even folks who thought football was just 22 blokes chasing a pig's bladder were glued to their TVs. In the semifinals, they faced the Netherlands, who were the defending champs and had some proper world beaters in their team. It was like a school team taking on prime Barca. But Denmark didn't back down. They fought tooth and nail, and the game ended 2-2 after extra time. So it went to penalties, which is always nerve-wracking. This is where Peter Schmeichel became a hero. He was Denmark's goalkeeper, and he pulled off this unbelievable save to stop Marco van Basten's penalty. Van Basten was one of the best strikers in the world, but Schmeichel outsmarted him. Denmark won the shootout and they were in the final. The final pitted them against Germany, the perennial powerhouse. Nobody gave Denmark a snowball's chance in hell, but by now, these Danish underdogs were starting to believe. John Jensen, a midfielder who usually couldn't hit a barn door, somehow unleashed a thunderbolt to give Denmark the lead. The Germans threw everything but the kitchen sink at them, but Schmeichel was having none of it. Then, with time ticking away, Kim Vilfort sealed the deal. It was proper emotional stuff. Vilfort's little girl was battling leukemia back home, and he'd been zooming back and forth throughout the tournament. When the final whistle blew, Denmark had done the impossible. European champions. The players looked like they'd seen a ghost. A friendly one, mind you. Back home, Denmark exploded into one massive party. People who couldn't tell a football from a frisbee were dancing in the streets. The players, instant legends. Just goes to show, in sports and life, the craziest things can happen. With a bit of teamwork, self-belief, and a sprinkle of luck, even the biggest underdogs can come out on top. But wait, there's more. Fast forward 12 years to another tale that'll make your jaw hit the floor. Greece 2004, the ultimate surprise.
The semi-final, but they've got a goal here. The heading power of Haris Dias.
In 2004, Greece rocked up to the Euros in Portugal with expectations lower than a limbo champion. They'd only ever won one game in a major tournament. Most folks thought they'd be on the first plane home, tails between their legs. But Greece had an ace up their sleeve, Otto Rehagel, their German gaffer. The bloke could barely order a souvlaki in Greek, but boy did he know his football. Rehagel's game plan was simpler than a caveman's diet. Defend like your life depends on it. Frustrate the opposition, and nick a goal from a set piece. It wasn't exactly total football, but did it ever work? In their very first game, Greece played against Portugal, the tournament hosts. Portugal had more talent than a TV talent show. Luis Figo, a young Cristiano Ronaldo, you name it. Greece's chance, slim to none. But Greece only went and scored an early goal, then defended like their lives depended on it. They won 2-1, and suddenly everyone was talking about them. Greece then drew with Spain and lost to Russia, but squeezed through to the quarters. Just getting that far was like winning the lottery for them. Oh, and they eliminated Spain in the process. In the quarterfinals, Greece faced defending champions France. France had some of the best players in the world, like Zinedine Zidane and Thierry Henry, but Greece's defensive tactics drove them up the wall. The game ended 0-0 and went to extra time. Then, out of nowhere, Greece scored. Angelos Karistias headed in from a corner, and Greece held on to win 1-0. It was one of the biggest shocks in football history. In the semi-finals, Greece beat the Czech Republic in almost exactly the same way. They defended brilliantly and then scored from a corner in extra time. Suddenly, this team that nobody believed in was in the final of the European Championship. The final was against Portugal again, in Portugal's own stadium. The Portuguese were desperate for revenge after losing to Greece in the opening game. But Greece stuck to their guns. They defended like their lives depended on it, frustrating Portugal's superstorms, and then, just like clockwork, they scored from a corner, Karistias again. 1-0 to Greece. Portugal threw everything at Greece in the last few minutes, but they couldn't score. When the final whistle blew, Greece had done the impossible. They were European champions. Back in Greece, it was pandemonium. Millions flooded the streets in a sea of blue and white. It was the mother of all parties. The players went from zeros to heroes in no time. Greece's victory was so crazy it changed how people think about football. It showed with the right tactics and teamwork, even a team of underdogs could conquer the entire continent. Years on, these two miracle runs still get football fans buzzing. They give hope to every minnow out there that they too might one day shock the world. Denmark's 92 triumph is still talked about in hushed tones, like some kind of football folklore. It inspired a whole generation of Danish players and fans. Even now, when Denmark's up against it, you'll hear folks invoke the spirit of 92. Greece's 2004 stunner turned Greek football on its head. It gave them the belief they could mix it with the big boys. While they haven't hit those heights again, the memory of 2004 still brings a tear to Greek eyes. These tales remind us why we love sports. It's not just about watching the best of the best. It's about those magical moments when the impossible becomes possible. When David floors Goliath, and when a bunch of no-hopers become champions against all odds. So next time you're watching a big tournament, remember Denmark and Greece. Remember that sometimes, just sometimes, fairy tales do come true in football. And who knows, maybe the next great underdog story is just waiting to be written.